Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today we are going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about, I'm going to call it a wish list, I guess, but it's not necessarily, I would say, oh, we got to get everybody on this. I guess a target list. I don't know, wish list maybe, whatever. We're going to talk about that in terms of the draft, and we're going to talk about that in terms of free agency. But then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Justin Fields versus Caleb Williams discussion. So first, let's kick this off. I want to start with the draft. I finished my first round of evaluation if you follow me in the community tab. And so I have a good idea of what this draft is. As I said before, my goal when I at least pull out the targets is to get all the top 100 players at each position group. So this is never right now, I should say, because this is a side hobby. So it's never going to be me like, oh yeah, the 7th round we should be targeting this one guy from this Division 3 school. I'm not going that deep. I don't have time to go that deep. I have no desire to go that deep. These are the top 100 players as it lays out. If we have a good year like this year, where I'm able to do that before the combine, which I haven't done in a long time, then naturally after the combine round 2 of evaluations, I'll pick up a handful more. It's not going to be like 50 new people, but it'll probably be like 10 or so. And that's where I could go a little deeper, but that's kind of the general area. But either way, so I got a real strong idea of what this draft class is. And I want to talk about that a little bit before I dive into the wish list. So for me, this draft class is deep in a lot of positions. Some positions more than others, but it's a deep class, doesn't have a lot of top talent. Now, one thing I wanted to do, but I had time, was to go back to last year, because there's a lot of similarities to last year, and I seem to remember saying the same thing. And when I think about the rookies from this year, I'm pretty sure it was the same thing, where you didn't really have that dominant defender. I mean, I don't think Will Anderson should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year because I watched him, and honestly, the stats weren't crazy, and watching him in the games, it wasn't crazy, but the Texans were a cool story, so I think that's what happened there. But even if you want to say he was the best defensive rookie this year, I don't think that says a ton, especially when you compare it to kind of how the offensive rookies have looked over the last few years. Even though obviously Garrett Wilson wasn't able to follow that season up because of the quarterback thing, but still, anyway, in general, not a top defender. I think Will Anderson really got pushed up, and I don't want to say, I mean, it's his teammate, so it's weird, but I don't want to say he's on the same exact level as Dallas Turner, but I would say they're a lot more similar than people probably would say. So Dallas is being talked about right at the end of the top 10, possibly outside the top 10. And I think that's what Will Anderson probably should have been. You do not have a Jalen Carter, talent-wise. And so, yeah, the defenders don't stand out a lot. And the corners are probably the deepest group. And as I said in the community, that's not a great group. Like, it's probably, if you're lucky, this is going to be a giant group of really good corners coming into the league. And by giant, I mean like 6. Like that's a lot for one draft. But if you bring in 6 really good starters, like occasional Pro Bowlers, that's great. But I don't think necessarily we're bringing in any all pros, or like consistent all pros. There's no Jalen Ramseys, there's no Sauce Gardners, those type. And so that kind of makes it an offensive draft. Obviously, you got the 3 quarterbacks that are bona fide, and then a conversation outside of them, almost identical to last year. And then the offensive tackle group is super deep this year, which is, I thought the tackle group was great last year. And this This group is probably better. And so this makes it a very much offensive draft. Obviously, sorry, you got the receivers, which is probably the second biggest group after the quarterbacks. And last year, the tight ends was that group. And those tight ends all went on to do some really good things. Some of them did some great things. I expect great careers from them. This year, not that many tight ends, but a ton of receivers. So either way, similar draft. Not a ton of talent at the top. The top talent are always going to be quarterbacks, and there's question marks there, just like there were last year. Of course, people are going to play revisionist history and say CJ Stroud was perfect. No, he was not. Funny thing, just side note, I was watching corners. I was watching Cooper DeJean, and I was watching him last year against Ohio State to get a good gauge. And CJ Stroud was struggling in that game. And I remember scouting CJ Stroud. I know he wasn't perfect, but of course, people are just like, well, he must have been great. Y'all just didn't see it on tape. That's not how that works. And I forgot who was it. Kurt Warner might have mentioned actually coming to the NFL is one of those rare cases that helped him because it opened him up away from that kind of college offense. But anyway, we got a similar draft. So when I see a draft like that, and I feel like I talked about this last year, what I want to do, if I'm not convicted on being at the top, which obviously the Bears are again, then I want to move back and kind of collect. And I think I mentioned this before, but this draft is going to be meat and potatoes second and third round, probably the fourth as well. And again, I really wish I had time to go back. I could pull it up now, but I'm not going to. But I want to go back to last year, and it's only 1 year, so let's not go crazy. But I want to see kind of where the impact was last year. Obviously, you got Puka Nacua as a fifth-round pick. But this is what happens when you have guys. You only get two type of top-level prospects. You get guys that have elite traits where you are going to be like, okay, I'm not going to, or let me back up, sorry. You get guys that are legit blue chip prospects, got the full package of what you want out of a prospect. Or you get guys that have such an elite trait that you kind of forgive the shortcomings and because the ceiling is so high. That's typically the only two prospects that become top tier prospects. And when you don't have guys like that stand out athletically, what happens is you get a giant group of guys that are very similarly rated. And when a bunch of people are similarly rated, people are going to have small differences of what they like more. And what that turns into is this guy, if the team that likes you is number 15 in the first round, you're a top 15 pick. But if that team doesn't like your, or the team that likes your certain flavor might have went with somebody else, a different position, or if they don't pick to the second round, now you're a second round pick. There's a huge variance because we might say, hey, 1, 2, 3, these guys are all similar, but this guy's number 1, this guy's number 2, this guy's number 3. Teams might not see it that way, and so we don't know where they're going to go. So that's why second round becomes super important, because there's going to be a ton of guys that you think should be first round picks that end up not being first round picks and ending up in the second round. And I'm pretty sure you will see that last year. You saw it with Will Levis, where, again, because of his position, people felt he was going to get pushed up. Didn't quite work out that way. Second round, people scrambling like, okay, I want Will Levis. Let's see who's going to go get him. And there's some other players too, and I know there's some players I wanted the Bears to get, Rashee Rice being one of them. But that's what's going to happen. Guarantee. There's no consensus on who the first round players are, so there's a ton of them, probably in the first half of the second round, are going to be a bunch of guys that people thought were going to be first round picks. So having a second round pick is paramount. And so, again, trading back is an attractive option to me, just purely on this type of draft. And again, that third round and fourth round will be crucial too. Um, there's no one really to chase but the three quarterbacks. If you already have a quarterback, it does you well to sit back. Now, I will say that Joe Alt is on a different tier than the rest of the tackles. And then from there, it depends. If you really feel like if whoever is setting the philosophy in the building, if you really feel like that tackle, that position, whatever the position, is worth going for the premium stuff, then you could chase that potentially. But really, it's just the quarterbacks. I mean, the receivers, as I said before, receivers are a dime a dozen. There's not a ton of things a receiver can do to be special, because if you don't have a quarterback, or O-line or the offense is bad in general, you're just not going to reach that potential. It's too dependent on a lot of different things. And there's too many options out there for somebody to be special. I do think Odunze, Harrison, Neighbors on a different tier than the rest. But again, if you don't put that much value in that position to go get the premium stuff, then you better sit back and picking up what falls to you in the draft. So that's the way I look at it, man. Overall, I forgot which person. I want to say Matt Miller, but someone said they got like 9 guys as first round picks, and that's the reality. People, and this is literally why I say it takes one team. People, whoever takes you, that doesn't mean everybody wanted you right there. So you see someone surprise pick number 5. Oh, he's a top 5 pick on paper, yeah, but that doesn't mean he's a top 5 prospect. And so because there's 32 slots, there's going to be 32 first round picks. Doesn't mean every team looked at all these guys as first round picks. So that's how that goes. But 9 is a low number. I don't really grade that way, but I would probably tell you it's a low number. And I'll get into my list, and it's not a super high number of people either way. So whatever way you want to look at it, this draft is probably going to produce a lot of solid players, but I don't know if it'll be anything mind-blowing worth to move assets for, unless you're going for a quarterback, because that position is just so valuable, not necessarily the prospects. Although, Caleb Williams. So that was a lot. I'm going to get into my list. And when I say wish list, again, these are more the guys that I love. These are the guys that I can put down right now. I love them as prospects, and I would be ecstatic for the Bears to get one or more of these guys. Now, not all of them are first round graded, so it's definitely possible. But the thing is, I've been doing this the last 2-3 years or so in terms of saying, hey, here's my target list. And we rarely get multiple guys on that list. Obviously, me, Poles, Pace, and all the guys, we don't always see eye to eye. But hey, and I will say, most of my target list usually has been pretty good. But that's just me. All right, anyway, so my target list, my wish list for the draft: Rome Odunze, Xavier legit, I won't say Leggett. We got Ladd McConkey. We got Brock Bowers. We got Jackson Powers Johnson. Let me back up, in case. Rome Odunze, receiver out of Washington. Xavier Leggett, receiver out of South Carolina. Ladd McConkey, receiver out of Georgia. Tight end, or Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. Jackson Powers Johnson, interior O-line from Oregon. Joe Alt, tackle from Notre Dame. J.C. Latham, tackle from Bama. Kingsley Sumatea, tackle from BYU. Kieran, I just looked it up. Kieran Amagaji, I want to say, from Yale, tackle. Cooper Beebe, interior O-lineman from Kansas State. Cedric Van Pran, interior O-line from Georgia. Tavondre Sweat, interior D-line from Texas. Cam Kitchens, safety from Miami. And TJ Tampa, D-back from Iowa State. So those are the guys that I for sure love. Of course, people are going to say, what? You don't love Caleb Williams or the quarterbacks? No, I don't. As I said, and pretty much I don't know that there'll be a time anymore that I would say I'm like locked in on the quarterback, because every quarterback's going to have questions. I mean, I guess there could be a prototypical looking guy, but for the most part, I don't see it. I mean, it's just a different world and different type of people in this generation. So I just don't see any quarterback being that clean prospect. I mean, last year you had Bryce Young, who I think A's across the board for me. People still had an issue with his frame and would he hold up. And then the Panthers were a terrible team, and so he didn't do great, and so people want to make it seem like he can't play. So there, CJ Stroud, there was questions, legit questions, by the way. Like, again, people are going to try to play now. Well, how could you have that question? First of all, he could come in next year and be terrible, or be good and then third year be terrible. Like, let's see some consistency. But overall, Ohio State, same questions every Ohio State quarterback gets. Really, any big time quarterback gets. For me, how well will you be in the pocket? Anyway, this year, Caleb Williams, we know plenty of questions. And I will say that I've heard plenty of people that are actually around USC mention that they don't really know where these kind of character concerns are coming from. Never had teammates that dogged him. Everybody said he's been great. Nobody in the building, staff, said he's ever been bad. There's a lot of narratives about stuff that's just weird to me. Like, I keep hearing people talking about him crying with his mom, and I just do not understand how someone's twisting that to be a legit negative other than you just don't like that. But so I will say that there's still questions, point blank period, about the way he leads deep. And I won't even say diva behavior, because Jalen Hurts is getting those questions too. And at first he was the epitome of leadership. Now he's getting those questions. It's just, are you the guy that's going to vibe with everybody? You really do have to be, a character almost. And so some people question, will he do that in the NFL locker room? Will it vibe with the guys? That's a legit question, sure. And then the stuff that really is coming from his dad, and again, all rumors, but stuff that comes from his dad makes people question a diva, but whatever. But then, of course, the game. Now, again, I've said this before, and let me be very clear. People need to stop trying to talk about translating Caleb to the NFL. This is about projection. It drives me crazy to hear people, literal analysts, former players, whoever, just talk so dumbly. Oh, well, that, do I really want that? Is that really going to work in the NFL? You don't pick a player up and just drop him in the NFL the exact same. They change. You adapt to the NFL game, especially these days where the game is so different from college. It used to be a lot closer. There was a learning curve, but now the learning curve is much different. And so you watch Pat Mahomes. That ain't the Pat Mahomes that you see right now. And also, let me say this, because people keep saying, and I was one of these people, I was guilty. It was like, how can you compare him to Pat Mahomes and you didn't even see Pat Mahomes as a prospect? The difference is, and I was guilty of this, you're comparing him to Pat Mahomes, the pro. You're not comparing him to Pat Mahomes, the college player. And so you weren't comparing Mahomes to Mahomes coming out, because there was no Mahomes. And once you saw the type of pro he became, that became a new standard. So there's that. All that to say that people can have questions, but let's stop the misinformation. You're not asking Caleb to pick up and be Caleb from USC. You're going to work with him a lot in the first year, and you're going to work with him a lot over the years to become a different version. That's the point. So anyway, there's that. Questions with Caleb, questions with Drake May, blah blah. I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. I don't even remember how I got there, but those are the guys that I'm looking for. And these are players that I love. It's not necessarily force fit a player that people think we need that position. That's not even necessarily it. It's a marriage between both. Do I think we need a bunch of new receivers? No. If we let Mooney go, obviously we will. One receiver would be cool for me. Bring Mooney back. But these are just guys that I really love. And so I would be thrilled, again, to have any combination of these guys. All right, moving on to free agency. And I know there's top 100 lists and all lists. My list ain't that long. And once again, this is, I think, a little more geared towards our positions of need. But also, not every position of need is going to show up on here. So anyway, Brian Burns, I like him more than Josh Allen. I liked him coming out more than Josh Allen. I think he's more athletic, more bendable. I was going to say bendy, bendable, didn't know which one to say. He can bend around the edge a lot more. I mean, he's younger. It would be a shock if he does get to free agent because you just don't get guys like that. But we all know we need another guy around or on the other side of Sweat. Brian Burns would be great. Antoine Winfield, I think the thing is, Brisker has not shown me he can do anything besides be an in-the-box strong safety. And he's great at it. So Winfield is a playmaker as a slot and all over. So it would be limiting him a little bit. I think he could play center field. I know he can, but it would be limiting his talents a little bit. But he's a great all-around safety, so I would love to have him. Robert Hunt and Kevin Dotson, both out of Louisiana. Love both of them coming out. Robert Hunt caught on some success first with Miami, and we'll see if they let him go. But, I mean, a lot of talk about good movement and zone, which we'll probably be running a lot of. But at the end of the day, him and Dotson are both power blockers. Move people out the way back in Louisiana. So I like both of them. Dotson didn't catch on with the Steelers, but had a resurgence with the Rams. Lloyd Cushenberry, like them coming out. Haven't watched them a lot in Denver, but I hear great things. So I'll admit that's not somebody that I watched a ton, but obviously we need a center. And been consistently good for a team that, didn't have a lot around them. Chase Young, still on the Chase Young train. We can have that debate. I would definitely like Chase Young. I completely believe in him. My feeling is, like most of the guys, like they came in with winning mentalities that got beat out of them being in a losing franchise. Obviously, you want him to stay healthy, but the thing is, Chase knows he can't command a lot of money. Brian Burns, you're going to have to pay. Chase Young, we want to pay relatively as much. And honestly, to me, every team has a rotation. So it's not like we're going to hang our hat only on Chase Young. So I would say, they don't do options a lot in the league. I would get into that. I'd be early on that if it was me, because I would do a 2+1. I'd do a 2+1 or 1+2 actually, and then team option. But either way, you could work it out for a short term thing. Andre James, center out of from the Raiders. Again, a guy that has a great reputation as a consistent starter. And we don't need amazing at center. Not that there's a lot of amazing at center, but we don't need amazing. We need consistent and solid. Kenny Moore, I think I like this. Or I should say I anticipated more because Eberflus and that connection. And to that extent, I almost would say Julian Blackmon as well. Both guys that played under Eberflus and Blackman. I believe that was his rookie year with Eberflus, I want to say, or maybe it was the year after. But guys that he's familiar with, I still say nickel is the area we need. And to be honest, I don't mind. Well, I guess now that I think about it, if we bring Jalen Johnson back, I forgot to address that. He's not on my list. Our guys, obviously, I want us to keep our guys at a decent price. I'm not trying to overpay for Jalen. I made my feelings very clear. I don't care what hype he's gotten since the end of the season. He is not no elite corner, nor do I need an elite corner. As I've said before, the league has left that. The elite corner thing is not a necessity. That doesn't make a good defense. A good defense or a great defense is made by four solid guys. And so you saw what happened with the 49ers when they didn't have their complete secondary. They weren't the same defense this year. You saw the Chiefs, what happened when you don't have, Snead didn't even get an all-pro vote, but Snead, even if you want to call him an all-pro, that's this year. McDuffie this year, because you had guys that were in sync. I need guys that are in sync, that are smart. I don't necessarily need an elite. But anyway, all that to say, I was going to say Kyler Gordon, I don't mind giving him another chance at outside corner. But we got Tyreek Stevenson. If we bring Jalen Johnson back, that does bump out what's his name, Kyler Gordon, if we get Kenny Moore. But Kenny Moore's all pro slot, or nickel, so I don't care. I'll take him. Jonah Jackson, guard from the Lions. Again, more power guy. And I anticipate will be very heavy zone, but good guy. John Runyon from the Packers. Yes, take the divisions, guys. 2-for-1 blow. He's a guard, and he's been really consistent. So I will take that. And then Geno Stone from the Ravens had such an insurgent year this year. And if you watch the Ravens, that's a team that their defense definitely that I really watch. You'll know that they utilize so many safeties. And while Kyle Hamilton had the all-pro year and all that, he was mostly just a nickel. He was mostly in the box, blitzing off the edge, all that stuff. And the reason they're able to do that is because Geno Stone played a lot of the back-end coverage as solo, also with Marcus Williams. But either way, Geno, smart safety, comes from a good stock over there in Baltimore. And I believe Eberflus is good stock as well. And he'll appreciate smart defenders. And we need a back-end guy that's going to allow Brisker to just kind of stay around the box. And Geno has his experiences of that. So those are the guys that I would love to have as far as a wish list for free agency. So there we go. That's that. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Now, but I'm going to wrap it up by saying this. I mentioned I am back on the Justin Fields train. And as I said in my previous episode, make no mistake. It is not about Justin Fields. It is about the assets. Now, the reason that I have come back around, and again, let me also make clear, I've been 50-50, 51-50, or 51-49, maybe 55-45. Like I told you, it's close. I've been in the middle. So I wasn't like far on the Caleb Williams thing, and I'm not far on the Justin Fields thing. Today, I'm probably like a good 51 Justin Fields side. And the reason I did that is because of the assets. And this is stuff we knew, but I'm going to say this. You had Peter King mention, I was listening to him because he's going around saying that first of all, they're saying that he thinks the Bears are going to trade the number one pick. That's not what he said. He said he would if he was them. And he said something that resonated with me. He said, if you're giving me the choice between Caleb Williams and having 10 picks in the next in the next two drafts, first and second rounds, I'll take the picks. And I stopped and I was like, no, that sounds crazy. But it's really not. We already have 5 picks in the first and second rounds of the next 2 drafts. We got 2 first round picks this year, no second round picks. We got our first round pick next year, that's 3. And then we got 2 second round picks next year, that's 5. So we're halfway there. And there's starting to be this discussion of like, and I agree, Bears fans take it overboard. A lot of people do. But I don't think it, and we went through the trade scenarios. I told you a lot of that I think is crazy. But there is a world where you trade from number 1 to number 2, 3, whatever, and then you trade back again. Because if you were to say, we like Jaden Daniels more, obviously you're not going to say that out loud, but you say, I like Jaden Daniels more, I like Drake May, or we like both, whatever. You could trade one back, get whatever you get, and keep going. And we would probably, at that point, be at 7 picks in the first 2 rounds of the next 2 drafts. But if you say we're keeping Justin, now I could move back and move back again. And people, I get it. I get it. I am on the train, but there's a fine line. I am on the train of this not Madden. You're not just about to be, making 6 trades back and collecting 20 picks. I get that. But to say that it's crazy that we could do 2 trade backs, it's really not. Like, to get to 10 picks is not that far. And you could do that probably if someone further enough back wants to trade up, like the Falcons, Broncos, whatever. Someone that's really coming way up the draft. Oh, we could make it to 10 picks just off that trade. And so when I stopped and thought about it today, and I'm walking into the 2025 season, bump the 2025, the 2026 season. I'm walking into the 2026 season with 10 guys on my roster, 10 vets on my roster that were drafted in the first or second round. Maybe they all starters, maybe some of them all pro, maybe they're rotational, but I have to believe that if you drop 10 first to second round picks, and we're not talking about 7 years down the line, we're talking about 10 guys that are under 3-year veterans. That's a roster changing thing. And that's just if you stick and pick. Obviously, that gives you ammo to do different things. But to have 10 picks in the first 2 rounds of 2 drafts back to back, that's controlling the draft. That is a significant chunk of the draft going to one team. And we're already halfway there. That alone, it blows my mind. And I'm like, yes, yes, let's do that. Because the thing is, you get 2 more years control with Justin Fields. More than enough time to really see what he can do with an even more upgraded roster. But the thing is, you don't have to keep Justin. Because my biggest thing has always been, yeah, assets, but if you do that, where are you getting the quarterback from? You don't magically end up in the first top 5 picks. You don't magically get a young quarterback on the market. Where are you going to get a quarterback if Justin doesn't work out? And I think that's still the biggest question. But for me right now, I say figure it out. Figure it out. Somebody's going to be a veteran bridge quarterback you could get. Or you could draft a young quarterback. Like, figure it out. If you build the bully like a Philly, like a San Fran, like a Dallas, like most of these teams, then I have to believe we can find a quarterback to be serviceable enough for us to be competitive, even if we don't have the quote unquote elite guy. And as I said before, that's what you're making a decision on this offseason. What philosophy are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the build the bully and find someone to work at the quarterback position, or are you going to be a quarterback centric team? And so while we do have, and I told you that's going to be the fun of this offseason, we're in a great spot because we don't have to put everything on Caleb. We can get Caleb in a top 10 pick. We can get Caleb and trade back a top 10 pick and get more. So we're not just hanging him straight out the dry. Plus, we got an amazing amount of money. Cap space just flew up. So we're not quarterback centric to where we are strapping ourselves to get Caleb. No, we're in a great position. We could get Caleb and support him, or we could build the bully. And today I'm on the build the bully train. So go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.